My name is Tabita. My dragons trip that I went on was South America, Andes, and Amazon, fall semester of 2018. And yeah, 2018. So my educational background has always been really unorthodox in a sense that I was unschooled, which is homeschooling, but really self-directed. And I always knew that I'd wanted to travel as soon as I could. Um, and dragons was actually, so I had wanted to do Andes and Amazon since I was like 14, but I just never thought I could fund it. So when I went to a gap year fair and I was trying to figure things out, I met this incredible instructor, and she was just so inspiring. And her name's Leah Earlbaum, if anybody knows of her, but she's awesome. So she was like, you have to apply for the scholarship and just go for it. And she just kind of radiated this kind of life force that I thought, I have to follow that energy. And so I applied, and I was so thrilled when I got the scholarship that allowed me to fund it. And yeah, I can't imagine
Yeah,
any other path for myself. Yeah, it was
that's
incredible.
amazing.
I would have to say learning Spanish and connecting with my homestay family, because I knew probably two Spanish words, hola and si, when I first arrived. And I was terrified. I honestly remember a lot of tears in the beginning, because I just was like, how am I going to connect with people? I want to be here to be present and respectful and connect with people in their spaces. But I don't know how to do that if I don't know Spanish. So
Mm.
um, my first day in my homestay was so scary to me. And looking back, I think that's hilarious because now I'm so close with my family, and my sisters and I message each other on Facebook in Spanish because I learned Spanish. And it's just,
Mhm.
it was an incredible learning experience the whole month of my homestay, because yeah, I felt like my brain was just expanding, which it probably was.
Yeah.
In a word, I was more afraid. Um, I had a lot of fears about different things, whether it be leaving home for the first time, leaving my family. And then afterwards, I would say I was definitely more open, and I guess open to uncertainty and to finding different paths in different places that I wouldn't have thought to look before. There is not a day that goes by that I don't think about my experience. It's really almost surprising to me how present that experience still is in my life. But one way that it is really present for me is, so I first got the chance to really dive into cultural anthropology related studies when I was on my trip, in my ISP a little bit, and then also in this lesson that I got to give to my group. I gave my lesson on endangered languages and cultures. And so I got really into cultural anthropology. And I think one way that Dragons has impacted the way that I've continued to study about that, to study that, is in those really critical questions that I think we probably have all been asked and asked each other on our courses, which, like, questions regarding our place as travelers and Americans, and our ethnocentrism, and how we exist in the realities of post-colonial times. And all of those really hard and important questions, I feel like because I was being asked those questions and engaging with them when I was first diving into my studies, now as I continue my studies, those are always the first things I think of. I always think, like, how am I possibly being intrusive with ethnography, or just kind of always questioning myself as much as I question and dive into my curiosities about other cultures. I'm always questioning myself. And I think that as I get more engaged in my studies at college, I think the questions are going to be even more important every year, because they're going to be like the necessary axis on which my study turns, I think.
Mm.
I'm so tempted to say, like, oh, it's going to be okay, you're going to have an incredible adventure, but I think I wouldn't tell her anything. I think she was so in the dark, and she needed to be in the dark to have to make meaning from every experience. And that's the magic, I think, is I had no idea how it would go, and it could have gone anyway, but I didn't know anything, so I wouldn't tell her anything. I would keep her in the dark. That's a really hard question. It's everyone, but maybe my instructor Jasmani. He was he is. I'm still in contact with him all the time. He is such an incredible force of energy in his circles, in his communities. He's a really passionate person when it comes to social justice, and I always think, what would Jasmani do? What would he say? We had many long conversations about privilege, and yeah, I just appreciated everything I learned from him. I was always kind of just keeping my eyes on him because he always had something really special and important to say.
Wow.
Or the chance that driving programs give us to, I think, like Laura was saying, have really hard conversations, I think you mentioned, but really to have really challenging group experiences, and to work through those and become better equipped to have really authentic relationships with people. Two, I think. So one is because I didn't know any Spanish, so this was like a big word for me. Like tranquila, which means calm or peaceful. And then, but then in Quechua, our trekking guide Edson said "tupananchis kama," which is, I think it means there are no goodbyes. I think that's a variation of a translation, and we would say that to each other. It's on. I have 4 journals from my trip, not just one, and it's like, yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. You should see my writing; it's tiny. I was just like that all the time, but I have that written on all over my last journal because it felt really special to me to have that phrase. I think how much I could learn in 3 months. Um, it was
Wow.
just empowering because I was able to learn Spanish to get to a conversational level, to be able to trek, to be able to move through the world without my phone and rely on strangers and believe in myself. And yeah, that the amount that I learned taught me that I could learn anything. I just got into college. I decided to apply finally. So I'm going to Hampshire College in the fall. I'm hoping to study cultural anthropology and really dive into that. I'm always working on projects. I'm doing a lot of different photojournalism projects. And I just got back from Squamish, British Columbia, where I was doing work trades, doing childcare, and just learning as much as I could about all of the cultures around me all the time. Yeah, it's still, everything I did at Dragons is still what I try to do every day. I don't know. Well, this is, I wrote a yak about this, but this is my picture. I don't even know. One of my friends took this. Hopefully it's okay that I used it. But this photo is of my friends. They all cut my
Mhm.
hair on our last trek, and because it was getting really long, and but it was like a ceremony that we did, and we were kind of guided by our trekking guide. He knew something about making ceremonies and rituals for the Pachamama, and so they all cut my hair, and these are their faces as they cut their piece, and then they went, and we're like, oh, it looks really bad. We